Debit Note Processing Tutorial. In this tutorial, the primary focus is the debit note. This is the elemental financial record that is the core of the underwriting accounting function of FlexiBroker. This tutorial assumes that the user is familiar with loading clients and policies as well as with agents and insurer records. Note: FlexiBroker handles debit notes and credit notes in the same way. In this guide, references to debit notes apply equally to credit notes unless specifically stated otherwise. The term debit note will be used to indicate either a debit note or a credit note. The debit note. The debit note is a composite record containing all the financial and underwriting information, as well as details of the distribution of values between the policy, the client, the insurer, and the agent. This information is held on the debit note in minute detail, down to the premium, fee, and commission values in respect of each risk item on the policy. Debit notes are accumulated to the client, insurer, and agent accounts, yet each debit note remains an accounting entity in its own right. So, as with any accounting record, an outstanding balance and details of receipts and journals are attached to debit notes. The processes that take place when a debit note is created. Financial values. These are determined from policy records and recorded in the debit note. Client debits. The amount due by the client is charged to the client account. Insurer credits. The amounts payable to insurers are credited to the insurer accounts. Agent credits. Agents are credited with their share of commissions and fees. Broker credits. The remaining commissions and fees due to the broker are recorded and credited to the broker's control accounts. Risk item information. Each risk item's premiums and fees are recorded. Bordereau. Bordereau schedules are produced in the layout required by individual insurers. VAT. VAT is calculated and apportioned to the various entities on the debit note. Dates. Due dates for payments to insurers will be calculated in accordance with the policy type and the broker header parameters. Payment type. The agreed method of payment as set up in the debit note will be applied. Debit note numbers. Informative numbers will be assigned to debit notes identifying the client, the policy, and the endorsement number if relevant. Debit orders, debit notes. These will be numbered so as to identify the month and the year of processing the debit order. Printing debit notes. Debit notes may be printed at the time of production or as a subsequent batch process. Debit note reporting. Debit notes will be included in the debit note audit trail and the debit notes raised reports. Debit note financial values are accumulated and held available for the production of financial reports and reconciliations. Policy update. The debit note details are attached to the policy and held available for examination.